Greetings. Welcome to Wednesday Lessons video and podcast show. Today I have the pleasure of introducing my guest, Mr. Lamarcus Streeter. Mr. Streeter is originally from Clarksdale, Mississippi. He graduated from Mississippi Valley State University with a bachelor's in business administration. He has 17 years of experience in retail management. He's currently a fourth grade ELA teacher. He's also a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Unfortunately, he's a 49ers fan, but we ain't gonna talk about that right now. We ain't gonna talk about that right now, but we will see them very soon. Who that?
2 weeks.
Yes, sir. But we'll get started, man. I'm glad to have you on the show today. And I just, want to ask, you have a lot of experience in retail management.
I do.
And so what really inspired you to get into the field of education?
What inspired me to get into this field is, number one, my mother's a teacher. She's been teaching for as long as I've been alive. And just to see her, what she did every day, it was always in the back of my mind to follow into her footsteps. But at the same time, I wanted to make my own path.
Right.
So, went to school, graduated in business, doing retail management since I can remember. In high school, I was even doing retail management as a high school student.
Okay.
So I went down that road, and for 17 years, I loved what I was doing because it was a customer service based thing. I loved to be, to help people,
Right.
but at the same time, it wasn't fulfilling.
Okay.
So I got to a point to where the money was good, but now the time that I'm spending, it wasn't fulfilling for what I was doing any longer. And I always had a passion for children. I grew up, I was a member of Sigma Beta Club. Pretty sure you heard it.
Yeah, I heard that.
I was a member of Sigma Beta Club, and once I graduated from high school and went off to college, the way the men of Phi Beta Sigma really put their arms around me, that showed me a whole lot. So with that always made me want to give back to the youth. So I myself, in turn, was still heavily involved with Sigma Beta Club. I still am today in my hometown of Clarksdale, Mississippi. And even though they're a bit older, I know that it's important to reach the children when they're a little bit smaller. You want to you want to groom them when they're young.
Absolutely.
You want to groom them when they're young.
Absolutely.
The Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go. They'll never part from it. So get them while they're young. So that really, at that point, that's when I was like, hey, maybe it's time to look into doing something a little different. Then I ended up meeting David Jameson, Mr. Jameson.
Oh, yeah.
And Mr. Gordon, and they presented me with this opportunity to be able to come into the teaching field. So now here I am.
That's what's up, man. One thing I will say that I noticed is that you have a good rapport with most of your students, especially the ones you teaching fourth grade and I teach fifth. I get your old babies, and so even the ones that you had last year, they always show you love. And that says a lot about, the type of person that you are. That says a lot about what you put into what you do. And so I can definitely attest to that. And I also, notice when you do your step team meetings and even just walking around the building, a lot of the kids, they like to play around with you and joke around because you have that welcoming, spirit. You have that welcoming relationship with them. So they feel comfortable. They feel nurtured around you. So that speaks volumes about, your effectiveness as an educator. So kudos to you, bro. So they gave us a better understanding about, why you wanted to get into the field, what inspired you. But at what point, because I know you got a lot of experience in retail.
Yes.
But at what point did you realize that you could actually have that significant impact and a significant influence on those kids?
Well, I would say, even though I was working retail management, it started off in like fast food management.
Okay.
And then it transitioned over to Sherwin-Williams, more of a small box type of retail management. Then moved over to, your larger retail chains like Macy's and JCPenney and things of that nature. So even though in retail management I was mostly dealing with adults, it always seemed as though the children that would come in with the adults would always gravitate to me.
Okay.
And I think it's because like my personality is so welcoming. When I see you, I'm going to speak. If you look like you're having a bad day, I'm going to crack a joke to try to put a smile on your face.
Absolutely.
So those children would always gravitate towards me. And even when I would have like an angry customer, if they had a child with them, I know that if I can get that child on my side, that parent is going to.
That's it.
That attitude is going to leave just like that.
That's
So I would always find a way to connect with the children. So that allowed me to, that experience right there also allowed me to bring it to my classroom.
Right.
Because sometimes our children are going through so much at home. And our first reaction most of the time, if they come in and they do something, we want to jump on them.
Right.
But at the same time, we got to understand what these children are going through. Sometimes they need somebody to nurture them. It's like what you said.
Absolutely.
Like even my students from last year, you have them now. When I'm coming down the hall, they always want to reach out and shake my hand. They want to hug me. They want to say something to me. And, I'm all for that. And I'm all for it because sometimes these children, the instructional part of it is very important. But sometimes these children just need to understand that somebody cares.
That's right.
Somebody cares about them. I know a lot of times, we have all the rules and all that thing in school. And I'm not saying not to follow the rules.
Right.
But sometimes we have to understand that these children are children and the love that they get from us at this school, especially being a black man and mostly dealing with, black children, they don't get that at home.
True.
So when they come and get it at school, they're going to want it. And when they're getting it every single day, that's big to them because that hug or that good morning and how you doing, I care about you, I love you. I tell my children I love them every day at school. That's the only time that they don't get that.
That's so true, and I love the fact that you said that you don't know what they're dealing with at home. So a lot of these kids actually are traumatized by some of their experiences, and so we hear a lot about adverse childhood experiences, being in education, but that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
Very real.
By you being that positive image of a black male educator, black male leader, that touches on so many different things, on so many different levels. Like, not only are you showing them a positive black image, but you're showing them somebody that's loving and caring, as opposed to somebody who's abusive or, condemning, things like that. You're really trying to build them up and try to prepare them to be the best version of themselves.
Right.
So that's vitally important, man. Even, if not more so important than the curriculum aspect. The curriculum is important, don't get me wrong.
No doubt.
That is what it is. But these kids need to be nurtured, they need to be loved on, and they also need structure.
Right.
I'm very big on structure. But I have my reasons for that. But I feel like that when they have that structure, that creates the environment for them to receive that nurturing.
Right.
And so you definitely do a great job with that, man. So the next thing would be, what have been some challenges or mistakes that you have experienced either during your time as an educator, or you can expound on it leading up to your educational career?
One of the big mistakes I would say, and I'm just going to be very transparent, when I first got into the educational field. Now, I come from a family that was, I won't say strict, but there was a lot of structure. When I say a lot of structure, I mean a lot of structure.
Yeah, I understand.
This is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it.
Right.
No questions asked. So having that kind of background, I think I brought that into the teaching profession with me. At that point in time, not understanding that these children don't have the same upbringing that I have.
Exactly.
Exactly. Even though I come from, an economically challenged neighborhood myself, my household was not economically challenged.
Gotcha.
So from that standpoint, I don't understand what it is they go through because I've never experienced that. But what I do have the experience and to be able to relate to them with is my father was in the military. So he spent a lot of time working. He was gone, deployments, all those things. My mother was a teacher. So the only time that I really have to spend with her was, after school. And not even so much time after school because I was involved with so many different programs. By the time I got home, it was homework and then bed.
Right.
So I understand where they can come from not having a parent there, so to speak.
Yeah.
And like I said, I brought that type of mentality and that structure into my classroom, not fully understanding that they don't understand this. And the first thing that I would want to do is harp on them.
Yeah.
Without taking the time to really understand why are these children, why are they doing the things that they do? Why do they act out like this? Why are they not understand that, hey, if an adult tells you to sit down, sit down.
Right.
So I really had to take a step back, and it was thanks to, people like you, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Jameson, and to really just sit back and reevaluate things that all the time it doesn't take you, harping on the child.
Right.
Sometimes, just acknowledge the children that are doing what you ask them to do.
Exactly.
And once you acknowledge those children who are not doing what they need to do, at some point in time, they're going to say, well, hey, I want him to tell me I'm doing a good job.
Exactly.
So let me do what this student over here is doing.
Right.
And that was, I won't say a major challenge, because I'm able to, now, one thing about me, I'm able to see things and learn very quickly from it. But that was something that I wish I would have came into the profession, already knowing, because I think I could have been a bit more, effective.
Right.
Because the way I came in, I could kind of see, I put some children away, and it took me some time to be able to reel them back in.
Right.
If I can grab them from the very start, then, they're going to be more comfortable with me. They're going to be more receptive of what I'm asking them to do. They're going to be more receptive of what I'm trying to teach them.
Absolutely.
So it's all about creating that positive environment that a child feels comfortable. Because if someone is not comfortable, let alone a child, even as adults, if we're not comfortable in the situation, we're not hearing anything that's going on. We're not trying to listen to anything that we're being told. So just creating that environment that's positive, and and that actually encourages a child to want to do what it is they're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I can remember when I first started in education, before I even became a certified teacher, when I was just like an assistant teacher. During that time, I wasn't in college or anything. I think at that point, I think I had dropped out of college, but I started as an assistant teacher, and I didn't have any, desire or plans to even be dealing with kids. But once I got the opportunity to get that experience, I knew this is what I need to be doing. Mm-hmm. And so I started off, as an assistant teacher. But I remember, man, I used to be so firm and militant with those kids. Now, don't get me wrong. I had my moments, we, joke or whatever. But I just reflected back on my beginning experience. I lost a lot of relationships because of, me coming in that way.
Right.
And I think as black males, we want to definitely have the persona image of, we're strong, we're in control,
right,
and things like that. We want to be dominant. But from my experience, I think I came off a little bit too dominant, and maybe it was domineering. And I can definitely see now that was like, what is it, 2019? That was probably like almost 8 or 9 years ago. So now I make it a point to, I don't want to, come out domineering or overly dominant, but I do want to let you know that, hey, this is, this is my room.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is my room in charge here, but this is also your room.
Inclusion.
Right. And so without you taking ownership, then what I'm here to do is not even important. And that also, helps me develop those relationships with the kids while also maintaining respect. So I'm glad that you really touched on that. One of your challenges was when you first came in, you kind of, was very stern. And I can understand it. Sometimes it's a good thing, though. Sometimes it's a good thing. But the fact that you saw how it affected your relationship with your kids and you adjusted, that's what it's all about.
Right.
That's what it's all about, man. So with that being said, man, what is some wisdom that you would share with anybody who's looking to get into education, or just any good wisdom, period?
One thing I definitely would like people to understand, like it's one thing to do something that you like. Mm-hmm. It's even one thing to do something that you love. But I always take the time to sit and think, what do you feel? Like, what is your passion? Because I do a lot of things that I like and a lot of things that I love, but what is that ultimate passion? Like, what gives me a fulfilling like nothing else? And for me, that is helping our youth.
Okay.
Because I want to leave something. When I'm no longer here, I want to leave a mark on somebody.
Right.
You know, like even for myself, I will never forget my 6th grade teacher named Miss Harris.
Okay.
I will never ever forget her because she was like a mother to me outside of my home.
That's good.
So in this education field, that is my goal. Like when my students that I'm teaching in elementary school, they go off and they finish, you know, college, or even if some that don't go to college, but I always want them to look back and say, I remember Mr. Streeter did this. I remember, Mr. Streeter said this.
Right.
No, that's my passion, to be able to affect someone's life so much that years down the road that they will still remember me. So whatever your passion may be, even if it's not in the education field, you know, always look at how is what you're doing, how is it contributing back to society. Like, never have a selfish attitude where everything you're doing is about you.
Right.
You know, it's important that, you know, we lend a hand, whether, you know, it doesn't always have to be monetarily, you know, it can be emotionally, just being there to give somebody some type of support. But I will, you know, black men, we do need more black males in the teaching profession. Absolutely. Because we need to show, not that there's anything wrong with these, you know, pursuing other things, but we need to show our young black and brown boys that it's more out there to being a rapper. It's more out there to being, you know, the best athlete. It is. There's nothing wrong with wanting to step into a classroom and teach children. It's if you have a passion for children, it's very, very rewarding. And I would encourage anybody that has a passion for children to come in and give us a hand, because we not only do we need you, our children need you.
Absolutely. Our
children need us, and in order for us to make a difference, you know, we need more of us in this profession.
Absolutely. Well, brother, you definitely hit the nail on the head. And I just, you know, want to say I appreciate you again for, you know, sharing that insight, sharing your experiences with the people, because I know that somebody's going to be looking and listening, and they'll be able to see themselves in you. Somebody will be looking and listening and wishing that they were able to have that kind of impact. So again, you know, just piggybacking off him, we urge you and encourage you, if you even have the slightest of curiosity about what it's like to be an educator, go ahead and try it. Go ahead and go for it, because I promise you, it will do nothing but be a blessing for the youth, for the next generation, but it also be a blessing for you as well, because it's going to help develop some things in you, help change the things in you, not just professionally, but also personally. You heard from, you know, Mr. Streeter, how he was able to kind of self-reflect and self-correct some of those things. That enabled him to be more effective. Same thing with me. You know, you can only get better by being an educator. Like, that's one of the key areas for growth. When you're an educator, you're always going to have room for growth. And so I'm just excited to, you know, continue to see the work that he's doing, and continue to see the impact that you have on these kids, man. And just, you know, thank you again, bro. We appreciate you for having me.
Can I get one more word in?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I just wanted to quickly touch on something that you said. You know, you said that, you know, growth as educators, we have to grow as well. So I know someone may be saying, well, I have absolutely zero teaching experience. I didn't either. I didn't either, but I know I have a passion to help these children. So when you have a will to do something, you'll do what's necessary to get it done. Absolutely. And I want to touch on it being rewarding one more time. It's so rewarding when you are giving your all to help a child. Especially, I had a child that came in with a defeated attitude. Mm-hmm. He would always say what he cannot do. You know, give him his assignment. Mr. Streeter, I can't do it. And you know, when you take that time to really sit there and teach that young man and mold that young man, and not even about the curriculum, but to change his mindset from I can't to now he's at least going to try. It's rewarding. It was so rewarding to me when he would come back to me and he would say, Mr. Streeter, I passed my test.
Absolutely. That's
You know, and you know, that's rewarding.
Right.
Like even like I'm his ELA teacher, and even when he would go to his math teacher, when he would come back and he would be so happy with what he did on his math test. I know, even though I'm not teaching him math, I know that it had something to do with me just showing him that I cared,
Right.
and doing everything I could to change his mindset from a position of I can't
Absolutely.
to now I'm going to try, and now I can.
I mean, I think that's the biggest, like you said, that's the biggest reward from it. Is
Yes.
we as educators, we don't get any immediate gratification a lot of times. A lot of times, we probably won't even get that acknowledgement, man, or appreciation until years later. But the fact that you can see an instant change like that, like you said, when you help him shift his mindset from I can't to I'm going to try, that's what it's all about. That's
Right.
what makes it worthwhile. It's not the paycheck. It's definitely not the paycheck. It's not the paycheck at all. But it's things like that that make it rewarding, that make it worthwhile, and that gives you that sense of fulfillment, that sense
Right.
of purpose. You can do anything else in the world. You can make all the money in the world. But if you're not getting fulfilled, if you're not seeing the evidence that you are actually contributing to the betterment of society and these kids, it's not gonna make a difference. But
Right. Absolutely right.
this work that we're doing, we're changing lives on a daily basis.
That's what it's all about.
So, man, that's love, brother. So, we need you. If you want to change lives daily, you know, be a part of the team. We got to change the narrative. It's 2% right now, but with more people on board, we can definitely change that. So, remember these 3 things: we live, we love, and we learn. Peace.
And go Niners.